still here.
I'm always last minute decision.
I'd rather not. But my grandson's playing.
Hey, Dave, how are you? You know that I'm always like last minute. If I go, I go. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's what I'm hearing.
Sitting on the big side this year, so they won't have the sun. On the smaller side. Last year it was cold, but sitting out front there, beautiful sunshine.
Is he a senior? Is he a junior or senior?
See,
Wow. Goes by fast.
too fast. My one grandson's third year in Penn State, and she's got 3 more. So she's going to do a fourth when she goes to graduate school.
Join the crowd.
The youngest grandsson, she's in her second year.
In undergrad. Nice.
They drove home for the first time last Friday.
From?
Penn State.
It's not a bad drive.
No, it's not, but it was their first time. So every time my wife was saying, shut up, don't think anything, just do a lot of praying, just get the phone call at the home. One granddaughter was riding from, she had a bike. So I never thought that ride.
Tell you what, I came back last week from Ohio, on the turnpike. Wow. You can't drive fast enough.
The Ohio Turnpike.
Bars.
Hard.
Yeah.
I like 80, but you never know what's going to happen.
And that weekend I went out, there was snow up there.
Yes.
So I went south.
Because they go back next Sunday.
Okay.
It's not supposed to be much
Yeah.
weather.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Can't wait for the rest of the wheels.
I have one more. I have next week, and I have 4 more, and I'm done then. Yeah. That's it. It's not bad.
Get a new frisbee over there. Tom said don't touch it.
Nothing frisbee. Yeah. Can't touch that. Can't touch this. We had Common at our National League of Cities last day speaker. Wow, was he excellent. He was really good. Really good. He was as good as the Beach Boys the night before. We had the Beach Boys. The new president coming in is from L.A., and the California League of Municipalities brought in the Beach Boys. Wow. It was like seeing them in a high school gym because it was just a big ballroom, you know? It's interesting. David?
No, sit down, Joel.
I wonder where Roger is.
I don't know who's screen is.
You knew about the meeting tonight. Told me this morning.
Hey, how are you?
Here, call this meeting to order. Please rise for the invocation followed by the pledge of the flag. As we gather here this evening, please make us mindful of our needs of our residents and do what's right for them, not necessarily what's right for us. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Roger's usually here like 5 o'clock.
Mr. Brown?
Here?
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Milan?
Here.
Mr. McConnell?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles? Mrs. Volcano?
Here.
And Mayor Panto.
Here. Approval of the agenda.
Move.
Second.
Moved in second. Any changes? Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye. Action on our minutes of our meeting on November 13th.
Move to approve.
Moved.
Second.
And second, any additions, deletions, or corrections? Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Public comment on agenda items only. Anyone in the public would like to make any comments, concerns, or anything about an agenda item? Moving on to the consent agenda, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, we have bill number 35, which is amending or approving a real estate purchase option agreement. And then we have 6 resolutions for approving certificates of appropriateness for 64 North 2nd, 19 South 5th, 3133 South 5th, 120 Northampton, 137 Northampton, and 154 Northampton.
Move the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye. There are no reports to be received by council, so I'll go right up to reports of the committee. Finance Committee, Councilmember Brown.
I have no action this evening, but I do want to turn this over at this time to our financial director so he can go over the year-to-date 2018 audit.
Okay, actually, it's a two-part, thank you, Mr. Brown, a two-part update. First, I wanted to address some of the highlights that I had pointed out in the memo I presented and say that, yes, when we look at our year-to-date figures, there are some drops year over year. However, digging into them further, majority of them are non-operational. And as I believe we'd mentioned in prior meetings, my team and I are finalizing our revised book close process, and going forward, we'll have consistent entries. So, in other words, there are entries, accounting entries that have occurred quarterly in some instances, 1 year, and then they've flip-flopped and been semi-annual. So it causes a disconnect when looking at the financials. In addition, I'd like to also point out discussion about collections versus what's reported in these figures. When we talk about collections, or actually maybe I'll back up. When we talk about the figures that are reported in these results, the figures are actually what has been billed. And so once we bill, the revenue is recognized here. There's an adjustment done at the end of the year. We work with our accountants on what's acceptable for uncollectible, and that portion is basically written down. When we talk about collections efforts, that's actually money that we are collecting from the residents that we have billed, residents, business owners, what have you. So I just want to make sure that I've made that clarification because it seems that sometimes there is a bit of confusion as to what we're talking about when we're talking about collections versus the year-to-date figures. So starting off with the general fund revenue, I did note that we are down approximately 1.2 million or 3.9% year over year. However, a large portion of that is, again, a non-operational entry. Last year, we had booked debt service or monies transfers over to the debt service fund on a semi-annual basis. This year, we did it quarterly, which caused a $900,000 difference year over year. So it actually looks like this year we're down. Again, that's going to be caught up at the end of the year and will not have an impact on the full year. There are several other accounts that I did note that do have some differences. We are working through some of those, but again, many of them are timing issues. Are there any specific questions as I go on so far, or should we go? Okay, if there are no specific questions, then what I can then, let me ask, are there any specific questions on revenue outside of what I've mentioned so far? Did the memo provide enough background on variances? And if so, then I'll move on to the expense side in the general fund. Expense side, there's again a large large increase year over year in expenses. Again, majority of that is a non-operational change. We had booked our MMO cost in December of last year, and this year we booked it in October. So of the $3.5 million increase we're seeing in expenses, 2.3 of that was because of the MMO. The other real large operational driver of the difference is fire, and I think we've been discussing that, almost since the beginning of the year. The fire OT is really, as again we've talked about, that's pushing close to $1 million over, in overtime. And although we had accounted for some OT in our budget and looked at 2018 numbers, we're still trending ahead of that. The administration and fire have worked to bring in additional firefighters that we believe are going to, tamp that OT down. But for the time being, we're looking at a rather large number through, year to date and then through the end of the year.
Any questions?
Any questions? If not, then I'll just shift very quickly over to the 2018 audit. The audit has been completed. I was hoping to have hard copies to pass out to everyone, but they are not yet done. I should have them by tomorrow. Big highlight is that we are now in the 13th year of a general fund surplus. Our general fund unassigned balance is still above what our minimum target goal is. And overall revenues were up about 1.7%, while expenses were up about 2% year over year. I think the last point there is that our long-term debt outstanding dropped by $3 million year over year. So again, I'll once the physical copies are ready, I will pass those out with again some additional highlights and pages to that I would recommend be referred to.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. That's all.
Councilman Brown,
That's all.
Economic Development Committee, Councilmember Volcano.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to report that the committee on the 185 South 3rd Street property met on December 18th to discuss questions that we will be proposing to the 3 developers that we're going to be bringing in for 3 separate meetings in December. And so you will see some action coming up pretty soon, probably in January, about a decision that will probably come to council. Thank you.
I'm sorry, ma'am, when did they meet?
We met on December 18th. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, November.
November, okay.
November 18th. And we're going
Thank
to
you.
meet 3 additional times in December, the beginning of December.
Thank you, Councilman Volcano. Councilmember O'Connell, Planning and Code Committee.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Milan, Public Safety Committee.
Under the mayor.
Councilman Ruggles isn't here. Dave, anything we should know? Public Works. Administration Committee, Councilmember Ettinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one thing, Louis.
Sure. Councilman Ettinger, thank you for that. I'm going to be sending out an email to the council members now in the next couple days, probably not over Thanksgiving, but certainly in the next couple business days, with links to our new website. It's finally, we're about 99% complete. We've been going back and forth, just refining it over and over again. Just a couple, just minor adjustments that we want to make. And then we want council to review it, give us any input, and then go live with it. It's very clean, looks really good. So just be on the lookout for that email. That's it, Councilman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Ettinger. Report of City Solicitor, Mr. Shear.
No report. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, report of the mayor. Just want to congratulate all the council members that ran in this election. Councilmember Brown, O'Connell, and Milan for their victories, and City Controller Chris Hagel. Inauguration will be January 2nd at 6 p.m. here in council chambers. Also, I want to remind you that this weekend is a busy weekend in downtown Easton. Thanksgiving, of course, is a Thanksgiving Day big game between Easton and that town across the river, and that starts at 10:30 on Thursday morning. Friday at 7 p.m. we will Big Easy Easton Brass Band will lead us in a parade down to the first Christmas tree for the lighting of the first Christmas tree. You are all welcome to join us for that, of course. And then same thing on Saturday. The parade starts at 12:30 at East Area Community Center, and we'll be parading to the downtown. The peace candle lighting will happen somewhere between 6:30 and 7 o'clock, as well as some other festivities that'll be going on all day long during that time. Stuff the Bus will be parked downtown also. I suggest and encourage everyone to donate as much as possible. I know we're bringing a bunch of things down. And on Thursday, also, Stoke will be hosting a free Thanksgiving dinner. If you know anybody that's needy and needs a place to go for dinner, please go down there. I think my wife brought the turkeys down today. And look forward to a wonderful holiday weekend. Thank you. Moving on, there's no correspondence. There's no unfinished business. New business, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, we have a resolution being introduced. Well, it was going to be by Roger Ruggles.
I'll take care of it.
Okay. Being introduced by Peter Milan, resolved that the Council of the City of Easton, Pennsylvania has reviewed and approves a contract between the City of Easton, Pennsylvania and Premier Magnesia, copy attached here too, which incorporates all the bid specifications and documentations as required by the City of Easton, Pennsylvania under its request for bids as advertised on October the 15th, 2019 and October the 16th, 2019 for the purchase of magnesium hydroxide at a cost of $2.36 per gallon. Be it further resolved that council authorizes the mayor and city controller to sign said contract on behalf of the City of Easton and the city clerk to attest the same.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And you can summarize the rest of them.
Okay, thank you. We have a resolution being introduced by Peter Milan. Hold on. It would be for the same thing, except that it's between the City of Easton and Southern Ionics for the purchase of sodium bisulfate, whatever,
That's right.
at a cost of $1.26 per gallon.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Okay, this resolution again by Peter Milan, and it's for the purchase of polymer secondary clarification between the City of Easton and Neo Solutions Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
This resolution is also being introduced by Mr. Milan, and it's for the purchase of soda ash at a cost of 0.284 per pound and ferric chloride at a cost of $2.14 per gallon, and this is with Maine Pool and Chemical.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Dr. Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
This resolution is for the purchase of polymer gravity belt thickener at a cost of $10 or 10.8770 per gallon, and this is with George S. Coyne Chemical Company Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
And Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
This resolution's for the purchase of polymer centrifuge at a cost of $10.519 per gallon, and this is between the City of Easton and Neo Solutions.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Hearing none, roll call.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Okay, this is a resolution being introduced by Peter Milan. Resolved that the Council of the City of Easton, Pennsylvania authorizes the city administration to apply for a Commonwealth Financing Authority, PA, Small Water and Sewer Program grant in the amount of $200,000 and offer a $100,000 match to be taken from remaining bond funds to be used for a complete refurbishment of the Bushkill Drive sewage pumping station. Be it further resolved In the event that the city is awarded the contract, council authorizes the mayor and city controller on behalf of the city to sign any documents necessary for the acceptance of the grant.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Okay, we have a resolution being introduced by David O'Connell. Whereas the Easton Historic District Commission at its November the 12th, 2019 meeting reviewed the plans and specifications of Prosperity Industries LLC, owner/applicant for 24-28 South 2nd Street, Easton, Pennsylvania, for replacement of doors at 24-28 South 2nd Street.
So,
Whereas the commission recommended disapproval of the certificate of appropriateness, and whereas the report has been submitted to the council of the city of East Pennsylvania for review and disapproval of the certificate of appropriateness. Now therefore be it resolved that council of the city of Easton, Pennsylvania accepts the recommendation of the Easton Historical District Commission to disapprove the certificate of appropriateness report dated November the 12th, 2019, commensurate with the report of the commission for 24-28 South 2nd Street in Easton.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Is there any other business to come before any of the council members want to bring up? Hearing none, we'll open up the floor for public comment on any matter relating to the city of Easton. Anyone would like to come up to the podium? State your name and address, please.
Hi, Jennifer Rittenhouse, and it's 26 North 4th Street, number 7, Easton, PA, 18042. So just a couple questions I have for council, if we could. We were talking about giving a waiver for parking to the North 3rd Street development that's going on. And I guess I just have a question as to like why they would be or even considered for a waiver. And my concern being that there's like a precedent maybe being set here that like how far is it too far away that you don't have to have your own parking spaces? For example, like the supermarkets being built, right? Is that too far? Are they going to be able to come to before council and say, oh, I'd like to also have a waiver to not have to provide parking? Because obviously it's like a proximity issue, right? That the North 4th garage is going to be literally right behind it. So that's why they're asking for a waiver. Is that correct?
Go ahead, Joel.
I'm trying to remember. I think that was through the zoning hearing board,
Yes.
and so that's another body that would be looking at issues such as variances, and they would apply their own standards. So city council would not have any say in that. But the issues that you raise are basically planning issues, and I know that there's been significant changes in the downtown district relating to parking. A good place to express concerns would actually be the planning commission, which meets on the first Wednesday of each month. So there's a meeting coming up next Wednesday, December, and there's an opportunity to be heard at the beginning of the meeting. Actually, that's a break. I'm pretty sure at non-agenda items you get to speak in the very beginning. So if you wanted to ask a question like that, it would just be interesting to hear what the planning commission says, because how they may respond, because it's an issue that's been discussed and debated, and parking requirements itself is spelled out per district. So each
Right.
district has different requirements. So
Yeah, I was reading this.
So yeah, so all those, all those are really relevant concerns. Particularly, there's a whole new slew of zoning amendments being proposed, and it may or may not impact parking and those concerns. As far as this particular project goes, whoever was at the meeting would have had to observe what the give and take was. But what I read in the newspaper, which is, with all due respect, always dangerous as compared to firsthand, but generally the consideration was that it was dependent in a way on the parking garage being constructed and the proximity. So I read there was some fallback procedure provided that they would have to find X number of spaces elsewhere. But the long term, my understanding is that that waiver would have been directly connected with the idea that there will be a public parking garage and they will have to secure spaces in that garage.
Okay, so
Or
they
they'd
would
have-
have
or
to
they'd have it
essentially rent
available.
them essentially for the
Right.
residents. for
Well, or
what
the
would be for-
residents will be required to rent them, you know,
Okay,
whatever, at least it's available.
And my other concern would be on tax dollars being used for essentially to pay for a developers parking. Because, I mean, I think there is an argument to be made there. Would that be also something I would bring up with the?
Well, no, that issue really deals with city council and planning, and my understanding is these garages are not supposed to be losers, they're supposed to be revenue neutral.
Are they?
Right now, they're revenue positive.
The revenue positive?
Right now. Right now, the parking facilities in downtown are revenue neutral.
Okay.
And revenue positive right now because there's no debt on the garage across the street.
Okay. And do they have an estimate? I can read all this, I'm sure, but do they have an estimate as to when it's revenue positive or
Right now, they're
get-go?
revenue positive.
Because it's not
When
built.
we build the garage on 4th Street, it'll still be revenue positive.
When you build it, it's still going to be resident.
We have a $2 million RACP grant from the state. We're selling the Boyd Theater lot for $1.1 million, so there's $3 million towards the construction. And then we have the developer of the Peron will be paying for 70 spaces.
Okay.
And people who live on that side of the Northampton Street, north side of Northampton Street, will be renting spaces as well. So I believe if we count the tax property, real estate taxes, we're revenue neutral. But if we don't count that, we're real close.
Okay.
And parking in downtown Easton as a whole brings in $4.7 million, and it costs us to run the parking facilities about $2.8.
Okay.
So there's about a $2 million profit that the residents do get from the parking facilities.
All right. Thank
That's
you.
including, I should say that also includes fines, not just meters and
I
service
think we got that
lots.
covered, so I don't think there's a problem with the fines coming in. Okay. Thank you very much, and I'll go to the planning commission then. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to address City Council?
Lainey Abraham, 207 Church Street. I was here on, I believe, April 24th and presented a petition that was, it's a change.org petition. It's titled Preserve the Green Space at 4th and Church, and I was given to you. Did you all get copies, or there's one copy? You all remember this, though? Okay. And Peter Milan, you were gracious enough to offer to look up the number of actual citizens of Easton who signed that petition.
Yes.
And I believe the number was something like 270.
Out of,
Well, I don't know, because right now there are 860 supporters. I mean, this hasn't been actively circulating or anything. But in April, I'm pretty sure he said there were 270 city residents who had signed this. And it's a pretty strongly worded petition. If I didn't write it, someone else did. I would not have necessarily worded it this way, but people still signed it. And yet this project seems to be moving forward, and there has, I know there has been opportunity for public comment at city council meetings, and that there always is, but online in the Easton PA Post Facebook group, there is increasingly more commentary from people who live here with questions about these developments that are popping up, including 56 North 3rd, and especially the relationship between the 56 North 3rd development and 4th and Church parking garage. The mayor has commented that he does not want to respond to people there because that is not the appropriate forum. So, and that's fine. And he has said people have an opportunity for public comment. They can come to city council meetings. They can come to zoning meetings. They can come to planning commission meetings. Here is my question. Is an online petition considered a legal representation of the will of the public? I'm asking Attorney Scheer, Solicitor Scheer.
I can't, I mean, I don't believe when you use the term legal, it's a piece of paper that represents a petition. It doesn't trigger any type of statutory or other legal item, but it's an expression of speech. So it's just an it's not a legal definition to it.
I'm asking because I know that there are petitions that get circulated. For example, the ones when you all run for office, you need to circulate petitions to indicate that you have support from the citizens, and those are on paper at this time. So I imagine if petitions are on paper, that they are. My main question is it worthwhile to have a paper petition circulated? Because there are some people who've asked me and would like to do this. But I would also like to limit people wasting their time. And I think that's also, so I do have a question, like, do we need, let's do that first. Is there something that would make this petition, have you all looked over the petition and the signatures and the names of the people? You have?
I have.
You've seen the names? Okay. Okay. Would it make a difference if this was on physical piece of paper that was circulated?
I personally don't know the ramifications behind either or. You have mentioned those who run and circulate papers for running for an office. That's not only mandated by the state for us to do that in reference to any office that we may carry. That paper right there is not, but is a freedom of speech. Community saying, I want or I dislike or.
It's an expression of the will of the people. So you have like different ways that people can do this. People can do it in like a totally public, forum like Facebook, which, apparently doesn't matter. You can do it in sending letters to the editor, which maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't. You can do it by showing up at meetings and speaking publicly. I don't know if that works. You can show up to the zoning board. You can show up to planning commission, like, Solicitor Scheer recommended. And what's the goal? The goal is to influence their decision because they're hearing the will of the public. Well, a precedent's already been set for the Planning Commission making a recommendation to council to not approve the changes in zoning in College Hill last year. And it was approved anyway. So when you're talking about asking people to take their time, their personal time, and show up at public meetings, and you know that the end result could very well be, is the city council, I'm sorry, Solicitor Scheer. So you had just recommended that Jennifer Rittenhouse attend a zoning hearing board meeting.
I suggest that because the planning commission will will work on overall zoning plans for a city, which ultimately gets adopted by city council where there's a public hearing. That process addresses specific issues such as parking. That creates the legal document for which the code office and the zoners will ultimately grant applications if it's as of right, or which the planning commission may review a project if there's a site plan, or the zoning board will be looking to see if there's a request for relief or whether it's permitted as of right. So the reason I suggested planning commission for Ms. Rittenhouse's question is because it seemed that was a good place to share the general nature of her, when I say her concerns, it's just to make them aware. It's a way for them to be aware when they go through their other tasks. That's the reason I said it. But this is the whole process. The legislative process is that citizens will show up. They'll make their feelings known, whether it's directly or through some other media.
Through some other media.
But ultimately, the test is who runs for office, because they're the ones who make the decisions, who gets elected, and ultimately that's the ultimate voice of the people.
Do you think that they are supposed to be representing the will of the people? I haven't read the charter lately, but what is the role of city council? Are they supposed to be representing the will of the people?
Now we're in a political science discourse, which I'm happy to
I can do it. I was,
not- no,
I,
no,
I
but-
majored.
But
actually.
Mr. Hess is
We can-
counting the 20 minutes
That's
that's gone
fine.
by.
You know, it's not a long meeting. I mean, you guys, I've
Well, I'm
spared
sorry.
you many months of me showing up here. And again, I have
mean-
to,
I mean, you
I
said
have
that-
to
you
thank
said- you
you.
said
I
the-
really appreciate the live streaming.
The
I like that a
issue,
lot.
I'll just
And
say
I
this,
love
because
that
when
you're
you
doing
say the will of the people, and because this is a good discussion outside of city council, representatives should have the nerve to lead and make and help educate the people as to what they believe is best for the government. I mean, for the ruling, and so what the will of the people is expressed in the ballot box. But I would.
But that's the only place. So why should you tell anybody to show up at any public meeting?
Because
if
I have,
that's the only thing that counts.
Because I have witnessed legislators change their decisions based on what the input is. I see compromise all the time over what might be introduced and what is the final product because they are listening to the people.
Honestly, I've only seen 2 people on this council vote not in accordance with the president of council's vote.
Ms. Abraham, could you wrap it up, please? It's been over 8 minutes.
There are 2 of you who have voted your own way. And 2 against 5 doesn't work. And if I'm wrong, please correct me if any of the rest of you have voted separately from the mayor.
You're assuming
I have.
that we're not listening. You're assuming a lot.
There was a
that-
parking study that was done that says we don't need more parking, and that was done before Da Vinci was gone. So if there's an independent parking study that said that as of right now, we don't need any more parking, and yet there's moving forward with a parking garage.
The independent parking
Yeah,
study said,
who,
including the replacement of the Pine Street garage, redevelopment of garage on Church Street lot, a minimum of 715 additional municipal off-street parking spaces are needed on a weekday to meet the design conditions. However, if the Da Vinci Science Project does not come to fruition, the deficit is reduced to approximately 465 spaces. That's
I've
your
read the
parking
whole
study.
thing.
Well,
Their first recommendation was to rebuild the Pine Street garage, period. That's the top recommendation.
and what do you do with all the cars when the garage comes down that are parked
You
in?
put them in the Da Vinci lot or somewhere else. I don't know. Listen, there are things you can do.
Excuse me, I need a vote from council
Ugh.
to extend this.
You guys, okay, what time is it? 6:35. Thank you for the extra time. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Anyone else in city would like to address city council? Hearing none, is there anything else to come before city council? Move to adjourn?
Second.
Second? Roll call.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Parenteau?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, to all.
Yep.
Be a chicken, not a turkey.
That's good, Mr. O'Connell.
Sandra, I didn't bring my jacket purposely. Just so you know.
Okay, you're wearing it, Mr. Brown. You're wearing it.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Come on, Jeff Ward.